All right, guys, welcome to episode 5 of Vertcoin Talk. Today, we're going to be going over a few different articles and a few different talking points as to what we've done over the last few weeks since we've been on here. Today, I'm joined by CryptoPlankton, one of our developers who's in Australia, and then also Ben, who is on the marketing team. He got to spend a little bit of time yesterday with two other of our developers, James Lovejoy, our lead developer, and Gurjap, who they were at the MIT Summit up in Boston, Massachusetts, talking about some things that were going on with MIT DCI. So he'll hit on that a little bit, and then we'll go over some awesome news of Vertpig is back online, being able to accept the euro, and also some other different pairings for Vertcoin. But we'll get right into it here. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. The first thing we're going to be talking about today is we had talked about and pushed out some information regarding the Vertcoin hash power and kind of how we were trying to make sure to spread that out amongst other pools. So as you can see here, we put out a tweet regarding decentralization on our network, and we wanted to make sure that people were aware that the number one address on our network was a pool called Coinatron, and that is the pool that NiceHash uses whenever they are mining Layer 2. So that is their preferred pool. So, of course, when that becomes profitable on their system, it switches over to that pool and a ton of hash power comes in. So we have been in contact with NiceHash. We've been in contact with Coinatron. We know the guy who runs Coinatron, just getting them to try to put other pools in there and to spread around that decentralization, so we're not having such a large amount of hashing power coming from a tool like NiceHash, where it's easy to use. It's not like there's a ton of people who are trying to go to Coinatron. It's just this is the pool that NiceHash uses. Just trying to spread it out a little bit more and get some more hash power into the other pools. So we encouraged all of our followers on Twitter and Facebook and things of that nature to try out some of the other pools. I know for me personally, I use P2 pool. But I'll let Plankton and Ben, you guys can comment on this. But we really are trying to push decentralization, and of course, if the majority of our hash rate is under one pool, that's not very decentralized. But what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's just, I think the main point to emphasize is we're just really early days at the moment. Mining's nowhere near mainstream. Like, you're only just starting to see other coins with GUI programs that make it really, really easy for people to start mining. There's so much mining gear, so many graphics cards sitting there out there unutilized. And even if some small percentage of the world you started using graphics cards, then we'd be actually moving. You've got problems these days is because people like NiceHash that aren't other competitors. So when someone comes along and people say, "Oh, look, this coin's profitable," you get this massive increase in hash rate. Interestingly, it was actually very similar back in the early days of Bitcoin. And actually Litecoin as well went through the same phase where there was very dominant pools, and they went through very, very similar issues. So I think it's more growing pains, but we just like to see more, one, a competitor to NiceHash and other similar services, and two, more people just taking up GPU mining. Because if more people took it up, the impact of these pools would be much, much less. So we'll see how it progresses, but obviously we rather people use P2 pool. That's a much, much better option. Ben, do you want to cover the P2 pool?
Yeah, so I mean, basically the idea is that you open up your own you could open up your own node and join like some other people's like pools, and like you open that on yourself, because really what we're trying to do is promote decentralization, as what we're trying to say, and kind of people to make it easier on themselves, like they join this something like NiceHash, and they basically buying and like selling hash power. But as what Plankton pointed out, people have GPUs sitting around in their computer. People there's not doing anything else. If you just set up use a P2 pool, and we have guides that help show how to do it, you can help promote that decentralization, because one one more person on the network, mining, that further decentralizes it. And then if we continue to have more people, they could, join each other's pools and stuff like that. But, the more people that individually or a little group of people that, just mine, just turn it on their computer and set up P2 pool, the more decentralized it is. The whole of the thing of network effects is that when you, more people that join the network, the more secure it is. But if you start to sequester power like NiceHash does, then it becomes less decentralized. And we want to avoid something like that because, as mentioned by Plankton, or in the early days, Bitcoin, Litecoin, they had similar problems. And then now we have problems with Asics. But, we want to promote as much decentralization as possible. And, the best way to do that is to do P2 pool.
Yeah, and we're aware, we're constantly monitoring the percentages of what pools, what addresses are using or contributing the most hash power to our network, because as everybody knows, we are very decentralization focused, and we want to avoid Asics and be able to, if one comes on the network, we are constantly monitoring to make sure to identify that as soon as possible. So we're always looking at this, and we're constantly making sure that we're trying to spread this out and have it as decentralized as possible. So here on the screen, I have a list of some other pools. We did tweet this out. It's an older list that Eric put out, but P2 pool is very simple, especially if you use the one-click miner. All you have to do is do some port forwarding on your router to enable people to connect to your pool. But if you don't want people to connect to it, if you just want to mine to it, it's very simple to get set up. It's literally just a few clicks, and then you're actually hashing to your own pool, which is really good because latency can contribute to orphans and slow down the number of hashing that you're able to do over a certain amount of time. So having a pool that is very local to you, that's why they always say whenever you select a pool from P2 pool or on the one-click miner, you want to make sure that it's not that far away from you, that the latency isn't that far. So having it on the same computer or in a computer right in the next room from you, obviously drastically lowers that latency and just increases your performance that you're getting out of your GPUs whenever you're mining. So we just recommend that, use P2 pool, use an alternative pool instead of Coinitron, just so we can get those hash powers spread out across the network. So the next thing we wanted to talk about today is we wanted to touch on, so fair mining is kind of a campaign that we've been working on for a few months now, just bringing awareness to how ASICs and centralizing of mining can be bad for the crypto community as a whole. So Zcash, our last episode we talked about the new miner from Bitmain for Zcash and Bitcoin Gold and a few of those other coins that use I think it's the Equihash algorithm. So Zcash actually released a statement that their statement on ASICs, basically they are prioritizing ASIC resistance research, and we applaud them for that, for going down that road. It's definitely much easier if that's kind of in your wheelhouse from the get-go. You don't have a lot of work that you need to do because you've been going down that road the entire time. But this is another group that has seen the need for ASIC mining resistance, and we're glad to see that. So it would be nice to see some of the other coins like Ethereum kind of take this approach, but that's where Zcash is currently.
It's very interesting to see the current landscape of what everyone thinks. I'm not sure how Zcash really came to the conclusion, because I know I was reading quite a bit through their forums, just seeing that initially the public were quite for to get rid of the ASICs, and initially the developers were a bit apprehensive to do so. But it's interesting to see that the developers have kind of did a bit of a 180 on that and decided to support the community. So we'll see what they do. That was completely their own decision. But it's great to see them caring about what the community thinks, and we'll see what they do moving forward.
I am definitely interested in what happened, because in the matter of a few days, they went from, no action and like promoting that to, okay, we should probably research it. Now, Zcash, especially what they do is definitely very like technical, and I think maybe this is one of those like developer things where they realize this is like a real technical solution, and they can help put out like a research paper like at the forefront of understanding what people can do and what other coins can do to promote ASIC resistance. Because as you know, Bitmain is very, very, very crafty. Some of those like coins that were like trying to be like ASIC resistant, I mean, especially in the Ethereum white paper, when you first read it, Bitmain found a way around it. So of course they have a lot of money, they have a lot of resources, so they will be able to find out certain things. So one of the only ways to promote ASIC resistance is to do what Monero did and hard fork, and also hard fork, like they try to hard fork twice a year, and people do that. That definitely does take a toll, right? Hard forking is not always the most seamless thing. It should be very simple, very straightforward. But like some people look at that stuff and lose faith or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of psychological block for it. And if Zcash, and of course obviously us at Vertcoin, we can figure out and promote a way that it is like nearly impossible, because I won't say anything is not possible, nearly impossible to create an ASIC chip for a specific algorithm. That would be kind of cool to look into. It is a very interesting technical problem.
Yeah, and Zcash isn't the only one who is doing this either. Scicoin also had released a Medium article regarding the state of cryptocurrency mining and kind of how Asics are working on their system. I know you guys had read over this in great detail. What were your thoughts on kind of their statement and what they were contributing to the space regarding Asics and mining in general and cryptocurrency?
Well, what the article mainly goes over is that his ASICs, the main sort of premise of the article is that ASICs are quite flexible. I don't think they're really correct in saying that. I think, yes, what is correct is that the hardware is a spectrum. So you've got GPUs at one end, which are incredibly versatile, and then you've got a pure ASIC, which is a single algorithm that can that is completely inflexible. So it's a spectrum from inflexible to flexible, and right the way through the middle, you've got devices. There is devices that are in between ASICs and graphics cards. You've got different types of FPGAs, which a graphics card is a type of FPGA, so field programmable gate array. And that means you can have something that's like a semi customizable ASIC. But the thing really to make a point about is this array, this spectrum that goes from one side to the other. When you move down, when you start, doesn't matter what you do, when you start moving down from one side of the spectrum to the other, the efficiency decreases. So they say, okay, well, it doesn't matter if you can hard fork the algorithm, you still have ASICs on your network. Well, you've kind of just ignored part of the problem here for the ASIC manufacturers. The chip they will be making will be significantly less efficient. Okay, so basically, the harder you make the ASIC resistance, the worse efficiency the new ASIC will have. So people saying that ASIC resistance is pointless, I really don't follow your argument, because you can make it extremely difficult to the stage where even if if you made the best version possible, and say the best version possible, they'll still be able to achieve an ASIC, because something that's ASIC proof does not exist. You could make something but it wouldn't be very efficient at all. So a worst case scenario, someone comes onto your network and tries to attack you, they would still need ridiculous amounts of money, because these things would only be not that much more efficient than graphics cards. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they'd still have to put in a crap load of money. So it really wouldn't make sense to attack it. So I think combining those two things with the spectrum and realizing that there is a difference in profitability really needs to be looked at, because people saying that, yes, they could make a hard fork resistant ASIC. Yes, you're right, but that's not the full story.
I mean, yeah. So the big thing that I also want to touch upon, and what CryptoPlankton is saying, is the efficiency, right? You know, you need a significant amount of money to like try to be profitable when you do some ASIC mining. I wrote an article about it actually, where when you try to get into Bitcoin mining, you have to compete with, like, I showed a picture of their warehouses. They had that was also from last year. They had like 7 in just one area, 7 warehouses that hold thousands of ASICs. You buy one of those, you're not gonna see that much difference, and you need to continuously accumulate all these ASICs, and basically it becomes a rat race of who has the most money, who has the most research to put in, and when that's something like that happens, and we keep pointing this out, that's, you know, the ASIC, yeah, okay, great, it's a kind of cool technical thing where it's like it does one thing very well, but this is not a process, and I'll keep saying this until people get it. It is not a process on your computer that you try to help make better. This is consensus. When you start having all that power to one side and not efficient for anyone else, those people cannot participate in consensus. The big thing that people really need to understand about this space, ignoring all like the tokenization of certain things and whatnot, it's consensus. The way that we decentralize, the way that we break apart from these centralized entities, these credit card companies, these banks, is through consensus. And if we keep centralizing this power through ASICs, we effectively go back to a similar system that we have to trust this centralized entity that has all this hash power, or all this, like, all the money that they have. And again, it just starts sounding like banks again. The whole point of this space, and you know, I know we're starting to sound like broken records, but it has to be reiterated over and over again, the reason that it was created. And you guys need to realize that, you know, the efficiency and of consensus is, and also profitability, to compete against someone like that has like ASIC warehouses and stuff like that, is just unfeasible. And it's at some point it could reach a breaking point, and we don't want that to happen.
Well, that breaking point is the 51% attack, where they basically can change the whole rules around the blockchain, which I know we've talked about in previous episodes and such. But, you know, I have up here the image that you were referring to with the Bitmain warehouses that, you know, most people don't get to see this. And these are, you know, a year or so old now. So you can only imagine what they have grown onto this. I mean, the fact that Bitmain was able to invest over $100 million in the Circle this week, that was announced, you know, having them as a huge investor into that platform, which they are now the owners of Poloniex. You know, now they're becoming more of a capital venture firm as well, simply just due to the amount of money that they've been able to profit off of making these ASICs, mining the coins prior to releasing those ASICs to the public. So this is why, you know, some people may say that we sound like a broken record, but it is a big problem that we take very seriously, and I don't think that it's really talked about enough in this space, because it's hard. It's not easy to really sit down and think about the what ifs. You know, a lot of people can be very reactionary whenever something horrible happens, but we would rather be able to talk about what are the possibilities of somebody in the space that has this much hash power due to the particular type of hardware that they're creating on a monopoly level. You know, you don't, because I know some people will say, well, they're down the road there will be more people who will be making Asics and you'll have competition. It's like, well, right now that's not the case, and right now we can only talk about what's happening now, and we can prepare with what's happening now. But you know, I think this is something that we're going to continue to look at and keep a focus on, because it is it's a serious thing that we have to take into consideration, given the fact that a lot of these other coins are getting 51% attacked, and you don't know who's doing that. It could be Bitmain trying out some Asics, and they're just dominating hash power because they can't keep up with GPUs.
Yeah, I found the whole thing really interesting, the whole back and forth debate at Asics. But I think another thing that's quite underappreciated is the control of having the single entity as a production, doing production. Because I think most of the time, Bitmain actually has two lines of products. They sell they sell you I know we've already touched on this, but they already sell you a used product. But they also have a second line where they'll produce a more powerful version later, which they're already mining with. So even the stuff they sell you, even though it's second hand, they also have another version which they're going to sell you to later, which they're mining unfairly, which they can keep doing this for so many generations until, because it is by far the most popular miner for so long. So they can keep iterating generation after generation really quickly and keep control of that hash power. And then you've got something like Ant Bleed, which is the remote backdoor into the ASIC, which is quite interesting as well. So I really don't understand. Even if you say there are companies in the future, these ASICs will be out there for so long, and the fact that things like that can happen, and you've got that a vested interest, you got conflict of interest in there. I really don't see how there can be an argument for them.
Yeah, and to like finish off this point, he was talking about how the ASICs are built, and let's not forget that, you know, as you said, Kanan, that Bitmain also is doing some venture capital, in terms of what other businesses they're into. They're very into AI right now, and artificial intelligence. And the thing is, if they decide one day that, you know, whatever happens and like the mining operation, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not going to go away, the profitability, anytime soon. But if one day they decide, yeah, you know what, doesn't matter, we're going to just go straight into AI and just continue doing that, and for whatever reason they stop doing the mining, then Bitcoin loses 80% or 60% of their hash power overnight, because all of it is in China. And, you know, I don't know the exact number. James Lovejoy of the lead developer of Vertcoin actually had an interview of that. And the fact that there's a backdoor switch, kill switch from, again, why does that seem okay to people, where all of a sudden the hash power can be just turned off overnight for GPUs, and, you know, you
know why it seems okay is because it hasn't happened, because nothing nefarious or nothing bad has happened yet, so that's why it's okay. And then as soon as something bad happens, people are going to lose their minds, like, how could this even be possible? And unfortunately, that's the reactionary aspect of cryptocurrency right now. It's kind of like when December hit and January hit, everybody was all gung-ho. They were telling all of their friends about cryptocurrency, get in without any regard, because they assumed it was going to keep doing what it was doing. And then once the price started to fall, that's when everybody got reactionary and were very investigative of you know, what coins they were putting, you know, money into and stuff of that nature. So it's unfortunately, it seems like the space is a reactionary one, and until Bitmain does something, or it comes out proving that they were responsible for some of these 51% hacks, their reputation is going to be, you can buy a machine that prints money and we can sell it to you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you hit the nail on the head, actually. It's there's a psychological effect. It can't happen here, psychological effect, and this time it's different psychological effect. And those are not the official names, but you could just name them that, because people think, oh, it can't happen, and then one day it happens, and then people are like, oh crap, what happened? And then going back to what I was saying about just to finish off the thought, the kill switch, right? And that's a built-in feature, I guess, or that's what they call it. I wouldn't call it a feature. I wouldn't call it a feature. For GPUs, they would have to, like, the government would have to, like, knock on your door or bust through it, whatever they want to do, and be like, hey, can you turn off your computer, please? No, that's not going to happen. So
yeah, they'd have to take down the internet, and that's going to cause more problems.
Well, yeah, just to finish up this section, you've got 80% in China, but then you've got to think about all the Asics which Bitmain has sold outside China. I'd be willing to wager like a lot of the Asics in China are made by Bitmain.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But then you got to think about all the ones which are outside. So it's not just, there is a ridiculous amount of them made by Bitmain. and the fact that apparently the revolutionary trustless asset Bitcoin is right now having to be trusted by Bitmain's ant bleed. Yeah. I don't think we're in a good situation, but anyway, we'll see if we'll make it through. Crypto makes it through.
Luckily, I think we as Vertcoin are in a good situation, because we're at least aware of this. We're talking about it. We're trying to educate people on it, and we're making sure that we are not going to be victims of any sort of malicious attacks by a company like Bitmain or someone that is able to accumulate and monopolize so much hash power that it becomes a problem. So I think we're in a good space for that. But one other thing we wanted to talk about, and Ben actually got to go to, it's the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting with Buffett, and he was talking about Bitcoin. So tell us a little bit about what you got to see there, and what did you hear regarding cryptocurrencies?
All right. Well, let's begin with the fact that Charlie Munger, like being a man of very few words, and never dicing his words either, never mincing them. He said trading cryptos is like trading turds. Now, while I agree with some of that statement, not talking about like the currencies, the certain tokens that are out there that it's just a white paper with nothing and stuff like that. That's yeah, I agree on that on that statement, sure. But I think it's the simple fact that and Warren Buffett has said this multiple times, that he doesn't understand technology. Neither does Munger. They don't understand like the value of certain things, right? So, back when they had a chance to buy Amazon or whatever company in tech, they didn't see the value in those companies. They thought like they were either overvalued or they don't understand what they do. And a lot of these companies, right, like if you think about it, and a lot of the companies that they invest in seem like those traditional physical, quote unquote, brick and mortar type style companies. Now, of course, they invest into like tech and stuff like that, but not until very recently. Of course, like, one of the biggest things that he invests in is Apple. And it hits onto the point where people like don't just to transition, is like the understanding of the certain aspects of technology. People still don't understand like some of the value that certain companies bring. It's Amazon, right? One like the world's retailer, right? That's that kind of their like the logo, or not logo, like their name or tag name. And it's very interesting to see how they think about it. And they keep talking about how there's a lot of hysteria in the space. And Robert Schiller wrote a book called Irrational Exuberance now, and I think that could apply to something like those all these tokens that come out like once a day. There's a new token out that's supposed to solve all this problem by doing this, right? And sure, that might happen there. I don't think that'll happen to the currencies, because we're trying to recreate money. And another thing that Warren Buffett pointed out was talking about traveler's checks, which are those are those little pieces of paper that you sign your name on and have a denominated amount, and like it's like a promise that all this money is in my account. Can you cash this out? Well, cryptocurrency is like that, and you don't have to deal with the paper or anything like that. So I think it's just, a lot of their disdain from it is just not understanding it, because they obviously missed the boat on something like an Amazon, right? Or, I mean, obviously Amazon can keep going up, and, they keep providing, value. But, they missed the boat on a lot of things. And it's just, this goes to the point, aside from them, that people need to understand what they're getting into. And I think that just is lacking in this space.
Yeah, I mean, from an institutional standpoint, with these investors and stuff of that nature, who this is what they do on a day in and day out. This is a completely different world for them, and unfortunately, I feel like sometimes the different principles and standard practices when it comes to investing into companies. These shareholders and stock traders and stuff, they're trying to apply that to cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, with things like the SEC coming in to rule that certain coins are going to be securities versus commodities, you don't really want to look at this as you're investing in a company. Kind of how he's looking at it when he's looking at these coins, because if you're investing in a company, you're investing in a security. And at the end of the day, those are going to be ruled under the SEC, which is what Vertcoin does not want. We are doing everything in our power to make sure that we are not labeled a security, that we are labeled a commodity, just like Bitcoin. Because when someone purchases Vertcoin, you're purchasing the technology. You're not purchasing a future advancement in returns from the developers or the Vertcoin Foundation. Once that's set up, that's not what we want, and that's not what we advocate at all. We want to be a commodity, and we don't want to be a security, which the majority of the time, people like Warren Buffett, he's looking at these coins as securities. But it's interesting to see how some of these they're older guys who aren't as big into technology, and they're trying to see the opportunity for disruption in the financial sector. They're seeing that disruption, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work for them in the way that they think. But unfortunately, cryptocurrency, it's a whole nother beast, and that's why you have to do a lot of research before you even get into this space to figure out, what the hell is cryptocurrency,
Exactly. And I think something that interesting that, to point out about that is that he has Buffett. I mean, he has a huge share in Amex, American Express, and other small shares in credit card companies. I find that kind of curious as well. I mean, one of the big things about cryptocurrencies is that we want to displace credit cards, because we mentioned this before. A lot of companies, because of their rent-seeking fees, don't accept Amex to their establishment. It's just the rent-seeking fees to profitability is just not there. And I find it interesting that something that like cryptocurrency that can help alleviate that is something that they're against. Now, of course, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I find it interesting that he did double down on Amex, and interestingly enough, also they are bigger. They hold big shares into Wells Fargo. And we know the train wreck that has been Wells Fargo the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting to see where he moves in this space. But definitely keep your eye out on it, because he's a big player in this game. But we're gonna move on to the Vertcoin Academy. So Ben is kind of leading this up and getting this revamped and organized into a educational space. So I have up here the alpha of what we're going to be doing with this site. If you want to go into kind of the vision that we're looking for Vertcoin Academy, and just helping to contribute to the education of users in the crypto space.
Yeah. So, one of the big things that I mentioned also when I was talking about the annual shareholders meeting is the education. And Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett have both said on record that they're too old to learn the computer science. aspect of things. And sure, they can definitely make that argument. And again, I'll also keep quoting this because this is something that sits like very well in the space. Is what John Oliver said, like, cryptocurrency combines what you don't know about money and what you don't know about computers into a monstrous beast that can really take you away from your money. So with Vertcoin Academy, and also what to mention yesterday, that when I was at the MIT L2 Summit, Elizabeth Stark was there, CEO of Lightning Labs, and she gave a talk about the education in this space, and it is also sorely needed. People don't understand like what it is and how to get started, and they have their own I guess like scholarship program, or Jimmy Song, one of the core developers of Bitcoin, has his own little seminar thing that you need to pay for to like, it's a 2-day like monstrous thing that people like pay some X amount of money for. I don't know what the price is, maybe $5,000 or something, $4,500, to get educated in this space. Now, that's great, and I like that, but I'm a type of person that loves to spread the knowledge. I think people need to understand this space more. And what I'm trying to do is provide that little by little with this website that I'm revamping from the current Vert docs. And you can still contribute to the current Vert docs if you want to, but this is going to be more of a overarching like educational system where it could be for everyone, right? It could be for someone who tries to get into the space, like a developer that's really interested in the blockchain technology. That's for you. It's for people who they want to get started with Vertcoin, right? That's for you also. You don't want to do development, but you're like a hobbyist, or you're just very interested in the space. And it's for builders, for people who build certain things, like like on like Lightning apps and stuff like that. You can advertise like how to like create certain things off Lightning, or rather Blit. And it's for everyone to help get into the space, because education is the forefront of anything that we need to do. You don't go into something like just like willy-nilly, not know, and just like do something like that. You want to try to educate yourself, because you could get burned. And if you back what happened in December, the run up, people got burned. They thought about like, oh, this is going to go up. I don't even know what the hell this does, but it's going to go up. It's going to go up forever. And then instantly lost 75% of their earnings. And probably people started like taking out loans during the December run up, and like investing at the top. And
yeah, I remember seeing that. I was like, this could end badly. And unfortunately, I think it takes time to get educated on something. It takes time and effort. And I think us being able to have a free place for people to go, and it's not behind a paywall, but being able to have something that's free, easy to understand, covers the basic fundamentals of the technology and the reasons why this technology is here. I mean, you have a lot of places that they offer up these grandiose solutions to problems that may not even be problems, but they still don't talk about what's the philosophy behind the project that they're doing. So I think this is going to be a great step forward in being able to get people educated on why cryptocurrency is a thing, and then also why Vertcoin is a leader in the space of education, decentralization, and becoming massive or having massive adoption as a payment system for vendors and things of that nature in the future.
Yep. So you guys, 100% I agree. You guys can keep track of the progress. I'm very transparent. You could come in Discord and ask me like any kind of questions that you want. If you want to contribute, I will help you get started with that. One of our community members, and I'm going to point him out right now, Sam Sepio, he and I talk almost every day. He when he first started, he went into the channel for Vert documentation, Vertdocs channel, and he wanted to post or like contribute how to open up a node on a full node on Raspberry Pi. That was not something that existed before, and he never had contributed to a project before on GitHub. So I helped him get started. I created a small documentation. I also did put that up on the current VertDocs site that you could go ahead and look at on the Vertcoin project repository. And he and I talk. I help him out with certain problems that he runs into. I'm very hands-on with this stuff, and if you have something that you want to contribute, I'm more than happy to help you out and get you started on trying to contribute, because this is a huge project, and we want people to be involved as well. And Sam, as soon as I gave him that little help, right, he has created some of the best guides I have ever seen in any kind of space. He goes through every detail. He tries to explain every little thing, and it's absolutely fantastic to see that. And he's been contributing consistently, and it's and people I know they want to see some progress. We're all volunteers, so I do take a little bit of time in between to develop and do other things. And while I'm doing that, someone like Sam is already okay, this guy, I know he wants something like this, I could write this, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And he's an A+ community member, and I wanted to shout him out for that. And you guys can do the same thing if you have an idea for something, and especially for guides or anything like that, and for documentation, while I develop, please message me on the Discord. I'm always available, and I try to answer questions as much as possible. And Vertcoin Academy is all of ours. I will try to show the everything, all the transparency between everything, to help you guys understand it and help everyone else understand it. I want it to be the quality of Jimmy Song's seminar, the 2-day seminar. I want to be able to provide that and make it open source for you guys. So
so I think that's that's going to be a great tool in the future of being able to help just spread that education around. And I think Plankton, do you know, how are we going to design this? Is it going to kind of have the same look and feel as the website, or have you guys talked about the layout and such?
I'll definitely share branding as such. I haven't talked about the layout, but it was also a mention of we might be doing a mining website as well, to get people just an educational mining area, more like a sort of splash page, in addition to sort of the homepage that we have on vertcoin.org. That was just in sort of alpha at the moment. Just talking to Goodwits on that one.
Okay.
So I think any website, I think we just start to build out the brand of Vertcoin, and everything will just fall under that same umbrella. Eventually, it will be very similar to. We'll actually provide a branding pack very, very soon. I was definitely looking at making a branding section, with all the logos and all the different assets that you need to make content of your own. Because at the moment it's lacking slightly. So there will definitely be a proper branding section soon that anyone can make your own merchandise, make bits and pieces, etc.
Awesome. Cool. So the next thing we wanted to talk about, we just got a few more things here. We wanted to talk about a new way crooks are stealing credit card information. So it was on Gizmodo, not Gizmodo.
Gizmodo Commando said.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring this up because we're getting to the point where cryptocurrency is starting to gain mainstream, right? And with credit cards, there's just new ways to spoof your information, because as soon as you swipe that chip, you get all this information on you that companies will end up selling, basically. I mean, look at the Equifax hack, for example. Now there's a new way to hack your credit card information or your debit card information, and it's called a shimmer. And a shimmer is basically a small little device that fits into any point of sales reader slot or an ATM, and you won't even notice it. It just sits in there, and it'll swipe through, and it'll have all your information downloaded. I think that is extremely obscene if that's something that's going to start going like mainstream, right? Because, we had this problem with Target had the problem with credit card spoofing, and it just continues to have like issues and people, I think, seem to forget that. And what we want to help you guys understand is start accepting cryptocurrency as a means for buying stuff, as a means for commerce, because we credit cards are have been the chip is unsafe and everything seems to be unsafe, and it just we want to promote a safe alternative that you have control over your power, your data, because yesterday at the MIT event there was a demo actually about how you can't, because when you go on certain websites, they just feed you some advertisement and it gets very annoying. There was a demo that showed that an ad started but it stopped, and it doesn't play. Now it gives you the option to continue to play the ad or whatever it is, if it's something maybe you're interested in. Maybe it gives you a little preview, and then if you press play, or if you press okay, and it starts playing, you get paid in a certain denomination of coins for your time of looking at that ad, because our attention is basically what's being sold here. And when they showed the project, I thought it was really cool, because if you press pause on the video, for example, the coins that are being dispensed into your account they stop. Now this is not something it's oh yeah, you get a super amount of coins. No, you get a small amount of coins, but it's just like paying for your time. And with what's happening with credit cards, you're getting your data stolen and you're getting advertisement fed right back at you. And then of course Equifax loses your data, and now everyone has it. It's just
Yeah.
no, it's exactly you swipe the credit card, and then now someone has your data, maybe Equifax, whoever, and then Equifax loses your data, and now everyone has it. It's just one of those things where we want to prevent a system like that, where it's just like obscene, predatory advertising, and of course your data. That's something. Privacy should be something that people have.
So you guys may be asking, why are we looking at ways people are stealing credit card information and stuff of that nature? We're looking at all of this space because one of the problems we want to solve is being able to pay for stuff with Vertcoin. And you need to be aware of what's happening in the space with smart readers, credit card things, and all that stuff to understand the challenges that we may face when it comes to having a Vertcoin or a lit box in a local mom and pop shop, and you're trying to pay. We want to make sure that we're on the same page and we're up to date with the latest information as far as scams and stuff of that nature, so we can protect our users who are paying with Vertcoin. All right, well, if that's all we got on that one. So the next one, and I know there were some people who were asking about, what good news are we going to have in this episode. So Vertpig, you guys remember Vertpig launched, was it about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and they were accepting the British pound as a pairing with Vertcoin, and they had to end up shutting down just due to some investor things, or something was going on back then. Now, something else to remember, Vertpig is not directly affiliated with us. This was launched by a community member who really loves Vertcoin. Now, they work with us as far as working with our developers and making sure that we information share and just help each other out, basically, when it comes to getting this squared away. But they are a separate entity, but they have relaunched today. Today is the launch date for vertpig.com, where you can actually trade euros for Vertcoin. You can trade Vertcoin for Bitcoin or Litecoin. So this is now available for users to be able to take, €1 and go buy Vertcoin directly. So now we have a direct pairing with a fiat currency, and I know a lot of people were asking about Vertbase as well, with the USD and possible Australian dollar pairing. That is still in working progress, and I think they said June 1st is kind of their when they're going to be launching Vertbase. I don't know if that is still on track, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting to be able to have the euro directly paired with Vertcoin. There's not a lot of other coins that have that ability.
Yeah, and to just put on to explain about the process just a little bit, the biggest hurdle is banks, to be able to back the these new like Vertpig and Vertbase. And in the U.S., it's very hard to find a bank to back this up because that's kind of I mean, if you know the word, it's a little bit like Schadenfreude, which is basically taking pleasure in like one's misfortune. I believe that's what the thing is. But like basically, the banks are trying to support the cryptocurrency by backing it up. It's just a measure of how dependent we are on banks, and that's why Justin and Adam, the Vertpig and Vertbase, they had like initial issues. I know Justin, definitely in the U.S., much more stringent policies for banks to back up Vertbase, and one of the big things is there's only a small set of banks that will be because of regulations. There's a small set of banks that will actually willingly or are able to, based on regulation, to back up some of these exchanges, right? And because it's such a small amount of banks that are able to do that, they can go ahead and charge you your arm for getting them to back you up. And it's just a big hurdle. But I know Justin has been making significant progress, which is fantastic.
I think out of all the banks in the US, Justin came down to 2, I believe.
Yep, it was just 2.
It just shows how hard it is. It's ridiculous. Like, I know myself, there's ridiculous blockades on cryptocurrency right now from banks across the world. And even the card issuers themselves. Like, I think recently, because I'd signed up for Coinbase, I think it was 2 odd years ago or something. But I had to reissue a card, and it turns out that MasterCard, even my bank or MasterCard, has blocked purchases to Coinbase. And I'm like, I couldn't physically register the card, even though it's a physical same card from last time. So the level of anti-competitiveness in this is just ridiculous. Like, I'm not sure when, and especially in countries like Australia where we're pretty favorable for cryptocurrency at the moment. I know the banks really aren't. But it's really interesting how I was just wondering if it'll ever sort of turn the table and the banks are sort of given some pressure to actually relieve this. Like, this is competition. You can't do this. You can't just stranglehold them.
Well, unfortunately, banks, they've had a monopoly on this system for a while, so they're seeing this as a threat. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, if I was a banker, I wouldn't want to facilitate the destruction of my own business. And, I would do whatever I could in order to not allow that. But unfortunately, it's going to take one. There's going to be one bank that embraces it. They're going to fully embrace it. And that will be I guess, if anybody has seen the new Infinity Wars movie, The Avengers, where they actually have a scene in there where there's a shield that's blocking all of this hordes of people coming into this into Wakanda, and they open up one little section and they just flow in through that. It's going to be the exact same way with the banking system. As soon as one bank allows for it, people are going to rush into that bank. All the other banks are going to see the popularity of this, the opportunity for them to be able to facilitate those transactions, and then it's going to just be a floodgate of all the other banks. So it's just going to take one to knock down the rest of them.
Oh yeah, and +1 for the Avengers Infinity War reference. Good job on that one. And I think it's Goldman Sachs, honestly, because Goldman Sachs just opened, I believe it was Goldman Sachs, right? I don't remember, but the Goldman Sachs.
They're invested in Circle.
Yes, they're invested in Circle, and they also, I believe, they're the bank that started the cryptocurrency trading desk. They don't do that many coins just yet, but it seems like Goldman is the one that's going to start that floodgate opening. I know JP Morgan with Jamie Dimon, they're trying to do something as well, but Goldman Sachs probably already opened those floodgates. We're just waiting for the hordes to come in.
I think it's really a situation of the banks, one, being apprehensive, but then I think as you mentioned, I think it's going to be a big mixture of. It's going to be the next wave is probably going to be something to do with greed from the banks, and secondly, a bit of FOMO from them, like, oh crap, we're losing customers.
And we already.
And then the next chapter. Sorry, and then the next chapter is, oh crap, what have we done? And oh no, we're losing more customers.
and now it's reverse Schadenfreude, where we're basking in their misfortune. But no, you're right. And I mean, in the beginning, especially in something in December, it's where people were driven by greed and FOMO, which were by retail investors, like everyday people. Institutional investors, they're gonna do the same thing, and then of course the same thing's gonna happen where it's like, oh crap, what have we done?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think in terms of the crypto space moving forward, I think it's going to be very critical on how people store their crypto, because in the end, I think I've tweeted about this a lot, is the biggest problem that crypto is going to face, the biggest challenge, is not turning into the banking system we already have. Now, there's a couple of ways that can happen. That can happen, one, through like majority hash power. You can have all those things happen. You can call that banking. The second one is how people just store their crypto. Majority of people don't care. They've used banks largely. A lot of people have used banks their whole lives and nothing's happened. I'd say so. That would be particularly true in somewhere like Australia, where we weren't hit hard by the financial crisis. We didn't have banks collapse. We didn't have really anything happen because we were quite reliant on China. And I think people wouldn't really care about storing their crypto properly. So I think people, if banks are looking to open up crypto trading desks and doing these things and actually store people's crypto, well, then yes, they still have control of your money. And you've just built the same thing. They're still just holding your money. And it is quite interesting seeing how that will play out. I don't know if we'll ever get an event, because Australia, up until recently, didn't have that law where they could take your life savings, your I don't know what you guys call it. We call it superannuation, like the money that gets put aside from your job into a savings fund that you can't touch. Yeah. So that the government couldn't take that. That wasn't a law.
That's a law now there?
Well, they can take it in extreme circumstances. Yeah.
Okay.
So they can take it in extreme circumstances. This has actually happened in Canada before, where people lost their entire life savings, like their retirement savings, and that was quietly passed, I think, late last year. And again, no one really talked about it.
It's not something that they're going to tout, you know.
And
we're going to take all of your life savings that you've built over the years, and
man.
So it's just I think people have to be really careful, because again, where everyone says, oh, it's a revolution, but I think reality is, I think a lot of people, it's still going to take so much education, so much rebuilding of how people manage their money in the first place, and just the sort of the workflow. How do you live a crypto life? Do you put your private keys on your bed? Do you store them somewhere? Is it somewhere like I don't understand. Like the average person has to be able to get that sort of workflow of how do I do this.
Oh, there are some people who store their money in under their mattress and in a shoebox under their bed. there are people who do that, and touching upon what you said about Canada, and that's insane to me, something to think about. North Korea back in 2008, while the United States was doing quantitative easing, inserting more money into the supply, North Korea did the exact opposite, where people were saving up a lot of their money, a lot of their wealth, and North Korea, just said, what, tomorrow we're gonna do a new currency, and you have 5 days to exchange it, and oh, by the way, it's yours is only gonna be worth half. Now imagine that. You're saving up your life savings for your life, and all of a sudden the government just goes, oh, by the way, we're gonna exchange this currency, and your wealth is only going to be worth half now.
So that's a great point to touch on what we were talking about earlier with Bitmain and that 51% hack. or the attack on a network, if your life say if your goal in cryptocurrency was I want to get 1 Bitcoin, that's my ticket to the moon, that's going to buy me a Lamborghini one day, whatever ambitions you have regarding cryptocurrencies, you get that 1 Bitcoin. And right now, the reason why that 1 Bitcoin is very expensive is because there's only 21 million of them. And that rule is set because of consensus, because those rules are dictated to by all of the miners. Now, if you have someone that comes in with 51% of the hashing power and can change those rules, i.e., a government changes the rules on the currency, now there's 1 billion Bitcoins. There's not just 21 million. Now your Bitcoin's going to fall in value, just like if you look at any other government in the past who has, printed money or changed monetary policy to devalue the currency. It's the same principle. It's just different players, and it's a different atmosphere. It's all digital. It's all on a computer versus having a federal government that has arms that can basically take your stuff, like you were talking about in Australia and Canada. They can take your savings. Here, you can have somebody who has enough hash power that they can rewrite the rules so that your savings are now worthless. So it's a direct equivalent. It's just in cryptocurrency versus a government-backed fiat system. So, but yeah, I think and that's thinking about how not to recreate the banking system is hard. Recreating the banking system is easy because it's what everybody's used to. That's what everybody is aware of, and they're used to the mechanics of it and the lack of responsibility when it comes to the current banking system. Because if you mess up or if you send money to the wrong person, the bank will refund you. In crypto, you don't have that. You have to be very responsible with how you store your stuff, how you send your stuff, because you are, at the end of the day, your own bank. And I think it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort to get people to take on that responsibility.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Mike.
Sorry. I think that it's at the moment you're seeing crypto being driven by one main emotion. One main thing, which is greed. And greed seems to be it seems to be that it doesn't. Everyone's just buying the latest and hottest thing and whatever. But I think what we really haven't seen yet from the mainstream country, from the mainstream people or investors, is the fear side of buying cryptocurrency. So in a couple of countries, I don't know if everyone's been paying attention, but a couple of countries have showed examples of this. And it's been called Bitcoinization of countries. So you've got countries where, like South Africa, Ghana, Ethiopia, I believe is one of them, where their government is in turmoil and the public is buying cryptocurrencies. So the people are buying cryptocurrencies basically because their national currency is hyperinflating, and their money is practically worthless, or it's deflated. It's worth less and less every single day. And they want to get out of that system. And the only thing that's accessible to them is Bitcoin. And we really haven't seen that really in history recently in any really large country. I think the best example of it was probably 50 odd years ago, 60 odd years ago in Germany. Went to the gold mark to the paper mark, and there's pictures in World War II of people holding. I think the paper mark initially was worth 25 US cents, and then within I'm not sure of the time period. I think it was in 2 years, it was worth a trillionth of a US cent.
They hyperinflated it so much that you would need a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread, and they were doing that because the government had to pay for stuff, so they just printed the money, but it devalued the currency. And these other countries are doing this as well. I pulled up an article from September 2017 talking about the first Bitcoinization of a sovereign state is happening now, where they were talking about Venezuela. And Venezuela has issued its own cryptocurrency, the petro, that's backed by its oil supplies. but it had to do that because its money had just plummeted in value because they had hyperinflated it to be able to cover all of the government services and everything. They needed to have the money to dole out to the people, and as a result, now it's worth less and less. And the same thing's happening to the U.S. dollar, to any currency. You have inflation over time. It's just it has to be controlled. It's the same reason, at least here in the United States, a Happy Meal at McDonald's doesn't cost $2 now like it did when I was a kid. Now it's $4, or so it's doubled in price between now and then. With Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies that are commodities, that are not securities, with billions and billions of coins out there, when you have a set number of 21 million, that's it. There's no printing, there's no more coins unless you get that 51% attack where they change the rules. But it's stable, and it's only going to go up in value because you're going to have more people that need it, and you're going to have less of it. Where this is the exact opposite of the hyperinflation, where you have more money than people need, and as a result, you need a wheelbarrow full of money in order to buy a loaf of bread.
One of the interesting fact is that the average lifespan of a fiat currency going back in history is only 40 years.
A lot of people don't think about that.
No, everyone just assumes that they're everlasting.
Forever. I mean, yeah, it's I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. It's the "it can't happen here" effect. That's not the official term, but people tend to think, oh yeah, whatever, it happens there, but how can it happen here? That's not possible. This time it's different. Again, that's part of the effect, and it's just those things that you trick yourself into. You just need to be, as he said, as we keep mentioning, educated about this, educated about history, educated about how our system works, whether understanding the basics of the economic system and how inflation works and that. It's just one of those things that people really need to actively think about, because when it comes down to a time where it can't happen here, it can't happen here, all of a sudden it happens. Nassim Nicholas Taleb has a book entirely about it called The Black Swan, where if you're a turkey and for the first 1,000 days, the person who owns you, or the person that feeds you, keeps feeding you, and every life is great. You have a nice little cage or bed, that you sit down on, and you walk around and graze. And a lot of people, what they think is that after the 1,000th day, the 1,001st day, the 1,001st day, you're going to be fed, you're going to be cleaned, or whatever, however turkeys are taken care of. But then to someone like maybe you or me, Cannon, that turkey is our Thanksgiving dinner, and they get killed. And people don't
tend to think of, man. I love a smoked turkey.
Yeah. So, to the turkey, the 1,001st day seems like, just business as usual. But that turkey does not see, quote unquote, the black swan that's happening where, well, actually tomorrow's Thanksgiving and you're going to be someone's dinner. And people really need to actively think about that.
And I think, and unfortunately, there's a lot of different podcasts and groups out there that talk about cryptocurrency, and most of it is, hyper fun, moons and everything else. Here, we like to talk about the realities of what could happen, go over the mindset that we have as a project, and some of the things that we think about, a lot of people don't want to discuss, and that's why we're hopefully never going to be trapped by a third-party entity such as Bitmain or something like that causes problems on our system, unlike other groups that it could sneak up on them, like we had with Zcash, and we had with some of these other projects where now they're having to institute the philosophy and the stuff that we have already been doing since our inception, because we're trying to think outside of the box in every aspect when it comes to merchant adoption, when it comes to network security, when it comes to ease of use of the product. We're trying to think of every scenario and to be able to cover it, and we're doing that on a non-ICO, non-airdrop, non-pre-mined coin, where most of these other projects, they have tons of liquidity to be able to pump out to people to think about this stuff on a full-time basis. But yeah, I think that's something that we have to really hit home in our future broadcasts and just continue to hit it home as a project. One other thing I wanted to note here is that we did do some updates to the website. So always go back to vertcoin.org and check out some of the latest updates. So Plankton is the web developer for Vertcoin, and he had put out some more literature and made some updates to some of the graphics here on the site. So make sure and go back and check them out. Plankton, did you want to highlight anything on the site that was updated this week?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go over a brief sort of what we're doing with it. Just updating our messaging. So the main thing we want to highlight to the community or people that are coming into Vertcoin is that we are an ASIC resistant alternative to Bitcoin and Litecoin. And that we have two particular areas that we'd like to highlight. So first just looking for it.
And tell me what section on the site you want me to show to everybody.
Yeah, sure. You can just go down to the Argyle section or the Argyle section would be good. Yeah. So the first part is that's spreading consensus, and highlighted there is sort of our philosophy, and just showing that we just try to identify a problem to the public, and just trying to communicate that Bitcoin and Litecoin used to be like this, but it's just unfortunate that even though cryptocurrency was pushed in that direction initially, it's now become something which is being sold off to business, whereas it was supposed to be something better than that. Secondly, I just wanted to, the site secondly highlights our connection to the Lightning Network. So a lot of people don't realize that we have a more direct connection to the Lightning Network than these other coins. So people tend to think that Bitcoin and Litecoin are connected to the Lightning Network development. Like there's a Bitcoin Lightning Network, there's a Litecoin Lightning Network, and they're developed by Litecoin, they're developed by Bitcoin. That is completely wrong. That is completely wrong. That is not. These teams are completely separate from Bitcoin and Litecoin. Litecoin and Bitcoin have nothing to do with Lightning. On the other hand, Vertcoin has a connection to Lightning Network development itself, rather than just the sort of implementing it on their coin, as Litecoin has done. So we actually have James and Gert work at MIT and work on LIT, which is Lightning Network implementation, and that directly sort of contributes, obviously, because we are trying to push LIT as we're trying to push LIT as a implementation. So it's great to have that connection and have a more intimate connection with the Lightning Network than these other coins, and that's where you get these sort of real unique use cases and problems that we're trying to solve in Vertcoin, because no one really else has that connection to the Lightning Network. So that's where you see things like Litbox. That's where you see things like the Lightning Network wallet and the multi-coin wallet, because it's problems that really aren't being dealt with. And I don't think really people understand the multiple adaptations of Lightning Network, and two, how the coins are actually even connected to the projects themselves.
Yeah, so being able to have two assets not necessarily on the inside when it comes to the Lightning Network LIT, but having that intimate knowledge and working hand in hand with the development of the layer 2 solution, that helps us, and it helps us to be able to contribute to applications on top of that layer 2, but it also helps us bring real world problems and things like that to the layer 2 solution and get those problems fixed. So that information passes back and forth, and it allows us to be able to have a better user product for the end user being able to transfer cryptocurrencies over LIT. So having that tie-in is invaluable.
And yeah, I haven't seen any other project. Well, in my experience, I haven't seen any other project actually mention Lightning Network itself on their website. Like you see all these things like they're solving this on the blockchain, solving this on the blockchain, solving this on the blockchain, and then you kind of just realize, wait, well, how's this going to scale? How's this going to do anything? And there's so many. You see so many academics saying like this won't work, and people are like, yeah, totally, it'll work. And it's just really funny. But anyway, we are very grounded, and we are trying to solve the crypto problems first, and then we can see about the apps and stuff, and then you get onto Lightning apps and the rest, and that people don't know about them either yet, but they're coming.
It's one of those things, right? So it does make me laugh a little bit, because it's been said multiple times that blockchain, that itself cannot scale because of the way it works. So you have people saying, oh yeah, increase the block size. I mean, that is something that will temporarily have you fix the solution, right? Or fix, quote unquote. I won't use that word too liberally, but you start, after a while you're going to keep increasing the block size, and everything gets slower and slower. I mean, yeah, okay, great. Now you have a one block that can fit 1 billion transactions. Fantastic. How long is that going to take? That's not feasible for a system, right? And then you have all these other solutions. I mean, people keep throwing out DAG, and CryptoPlankton and I are in the computer science world. We study computer science, and we know about some of these claims that currently they might work. Sure, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe the literature around it will evolve over time, but the way the nature of these things work is that they're not that you have to trade something off. You can't. There's a rule in computer science, and if you can't have everything, you have to sacrifice one thing, and or not one thing, but multiple things to achieve what you want. So one of the big things that we're trying not to sacrifice is the centralized aspect, which you would apply something like the Lightning Network as a layer 2 solution. Because if you try to do anything else, rather like increase the block size, over time it's going to get the time of which it'll be confirmed, it's just going to be so slow, and that's going to be unfeasible for a system. And people need to understand that you can't have when a project is saying, like an ICO or whatever it is saying, we're going to promise you blockchain 5.0, this is a new type of data structure, this is the new type. It's just those things. Just really question it, because the people who are actually working on real projects, people at the MIT DCI, or obviously Lightning Labs does their good work, Blockstream. We understand the limitations of the space, and that's what we're trying to do. When you go and see some of these white papers and try to research these people, some of them don't even have a background in computer science. How are you going to build a solution that you don't even have a background in?
Well, the same question could be asked: how are you going to raise $50 million when you don't have any product? But we see ICOs do it all day long.
I know, and it's insane, because you mentioned that before. We, as a coin, we don't have a pre-mine, we don't have an ICO, we don't have any of that stuff. And look at something like Bitcoin, or compared to some other token that's out there that's promising the world. In just a year's time, volunteer developers, not someone that's paid off by an ICO, volunteer developers have made more progress than most, if not all, the ICOs that are out there right now in 1 year, in terms of scaling the blockchain, scaling the solution, and trying to get the solution out to as many people as possible. While all these other coins, or whatever, not coins, tokens, that have millions of dollars of that are in liquidity, and they haven't made any progress.
Well, I mean, that's the difference between passion and just seizing an opportunity to get rich quick. And our team, from marketing to development to every aspect of the Vertcoin team, and anybody who's on the Vertcoin team, that passion to be able to facilitate the adoption of cryptocurrency in all facets of life, that is one of the key factors to being on the team, is you have to have that passion, and with passion comes progress. Now, we are limited in time because, some of us, all of us have to work. We still have to be able to provide for our families and stuff of that nature, but we have the passion for getting this vision realized, and that is what is driving this massive push forward. Of course, it's not as fast as a lot of people would like. A lot of people would like to have had Litbox two quarters ago, but making sure that our stuff is right, our stuff is solid, and making sure it's actually solving the problem and not introducing new problems is, part of our passion of making sure to get this launched and to get it adopted across all spectrums of cryptocurrency.
One last point for me on this subject. Yesterday, again at the MIT L2 Summit, Elizabeth Stark gave a talk about how Elizabeth Stark, again, she's the CEO of Lightning Labs, how back in the day when Lightning was still like being developed and still was a concept by Taj and Thaddeus and everyone else who contributed to the white paper. Elizabeth Stark tried to talk to people about it, and people actually thought they were insane. Like, Bitcoin's not going to work, Lightning's not going to work. I mean, look at it now, right? And then look at some of the real projects that are out there that were driven by passion, was driven by motivation to help the fix part of a system that's fundamentally broken right now. And it's one of those things that people tend to ignore, and for a while, until it pops up out of nowhere and just ambushes you again, with how Bitcoin worked out. So it's just, people need to understand, also the fact that she also mentioned in her talk that we're building new protocols, whether it be the blockchain itself, the settlement layer, or the Lightning Network, which is the layer that's supposed to help speed up the blockchain, help scale it. These things do take time. And you think about Lightning Labs that got a measly $2 million, for example, they did good work. And now look at something like Vertcoin, which we didn't, what, $2 million? And we are doing things based on the passion, and ultimately you could see something versus like an ICO that tried to promise you the world. They have whatever, $5 million, whatever the price is, and they still don't make progress. They don't have that passion. They just want the money. I mean, maybe they might make some progress, but at that point, Bitcoin, Vertcoin, these coins, we're just going to blow right past them.
Yeah, and you guys can see here, I got a picture up of Gert. This is him actually presenting at the L2 Summit yesterday for MIT DCI. So he's actually showcasing a Lightning tool that he's developed for DCI, and just wanted to highlight that our and Gert is from the Netherlands, so he got to come over to the United States and show that off. But we had, I think it was funny, James had said that we had the largest Vertcoin meetup in history yesterday, and it was two developers and a member of the marketing team, and it was three people. So I think in the future we definitely would love to do some meetups and meet up more with the community. But I know right now we have our nose to the grindstone trying to get stuff developed. I think that's it. Well, no, we have one more thing. So I did want to tease this. So one of our community members is pushing to get a Vertcoin hot sauce created. So there was a Vertcoin hot sauce created a few years ago from the same company, and a new push is being made for people who love hot sauces. I know I'm a huge fan of the Hot Ones YouTube channel where they do the 10 wings challenge and stuff. So I like hot sauces. A lot of our developers like hot sauces. But I wanted to get general feedback from the community and let us know in our Discord if this is something that you guys would like to have in your house. So we're looking to do this promotion with this hot sauce company to have the Vertcoin Verde hot sauce. And we're looking to get a pre-order set up on the site. So we're hoping to get 500 pre-orders, and that would be able to fund the production line of this hot sauce without having to bring any cost from the Vertcoin project. So ideally, we want to be able to keep our donations that have been given to us to go to the advancement of Vertcoin, but not necessarily a promotion like this. So we're looking for community feedback and input on how popular and how much you guys would like to take this up. So look for announcements on our social sites as to the where you would be able to sign up for the pre-order, and then come into Discord. Let us know if this is something that you guys would really like to see.
One thing, sorry to go back in time, but I did, because you quickly went into the hot sauce. Just wanted to point out about what Gert presented on, and it was something called discrete log contracts. Of course, he would be because he actually developed the solution. He would be best to talk about it. But he's currently there at a hackathon. I wasn't able to join. But they're currently judging hackathon right now at the day 2 of the L2 summit. But basically, discrete log contracts, you can think about them at like futures for US dollar. Like you have a certain amount of that you're trying to trade or trying to settle. And of course, we have the volatility problem in Bitcoin, right, and just in cryptocurrency in general. And of course, something like a futures can be settled for a specific price, of US dollar, and to help with that ease of exchange, for people to get protected from volatility. Of course, you could do discrete log contracts for volatility reasons as well, to play the market, sure. But this is to help guarantee the gateway of the guarantee of value in the gateway. So of course, Gert would be able to go into all the technical details, but that's basically what he presented on.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions on what he was working on, send him a direct message on Twitter or come into Discord and message him. He's always more than happy to go over kind of what he's working on currently, whether it be for Vertcoin or for DCI. And you can find out the latest information. Just reach out to him there. I think we're going to wrap up this episode. We're currently at an hour and a half, so this was a long one. But I did want to go over some questions here. If any of you guys, right now we're broadcasting live on our YouTube channel. If any of you guys have a question that you want to ask Plankton, Ben, or myself regarding Vertcoin or anything that we covered today, go ahead and put it into the chat here. I did see one where somebody was talking about Digibyte and wanting to know, I'd let them know that Digibyte had reached out to us wanting to possibly use our algorithm as one of their 5 algorithm solutions, and how that would affect our hash power, kind of like where we were talking about nice hash before. How would that influx the hash power whenever they would come onto our network? As far as I'm kind of limited on how that would fluctuate, but I feel like that would still spread it out, because they would be mining the algorithm, not necessarily to one single pool. Plankton or Ben, do you guys know how exactly that would affect the centralization of the hash rate if Digibyte were to offer our algorithm as a 5th algorithm in their system for mining?
I think with Digibyte, I'm not too sure on this. I haven't actually checked out the specifics of Digibyte in terms of its mining. I'm not sure if it's rotational or it's just all 5 at once.
I think it is rotational. I think it cycles through them, and they some of the algorithms have Asics, but they cap how much it can be used to limit the I guess the impact of the ASIC versus everybody else. So I think one of the reasons why they were looking for us as a possible replacement for one of their algorithms is because we are so ASIC. We try to be as ASIC resistant as possible when it comes to our philosophy and the way we address things. So it would take away one of those problems, but I don't know how that works. I think Eric might be one of the best people that could comment on this. So Etane, if you message him in Discord, he should be able to give a little bit more information on how that would happen. But yeah, I mean, that's my knowledge on it.
Yeah, so it would be if in the case it was rotational, it would be merge mined, and you'd get these sort of spikes. I don't think Digibyte, from what I've just side read about it, I don't think it's rotational. I think it's just all 5 at once.
Okay.
But so that would just mean it would just be like another merge mine coin. So if they ever implemented Lyra and then they merge mined, we just get people merge mined. You get hash power increases from people mining both. I think I encourage people to look into merge mining because it's. I think people don't really understand that aspect either. They think it's sort of you mine one coin and that's it. Merge mining is way more effective to do on the side. So I think, and that's the goal of having all these particular coins. Like you've got a range of coins to GPU mine, because in the end, if you've got a couple that are popular and people have incentive to buy GPUs and actually get mining and securing the network, then you have merge mining. You can merge mine with other coins, which means the mining is more effective.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do. I was going to say also, if you weren't going to say it, like that people should actually look into merge mining, and I don't think they're rotational either. So, but I haven't really studied exactly what Digibyte does. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people are high on it, but yeah, I don't think they're rotational either. At that point, it's just all at once. So.
Well, so maybe this is something we can talk about. I know it's not something that I don't think it's something that we plan to be doing, but maybe going over in Vertcoin Academy, or maybe making a topic in a future episode, going through and breaking down what exactly merge mining is, and kind of just to educate people on kind of what the benefits, the cons, the pros, and such associated with it. But like I said, it's still in, I guess, talks phases, if that's going to be an option with them. But I don't think it's going to impact us the way that having the whole of NiceHash mined to a single pool and dominating the blocks being mined. I don't think it's going to have the same level of impact. All right. See if we have any more questions here. We did have somebody ask about when Binance. If you want to know about Binance, you can just go into our Discord and ask. I'm sure a lot of people will respond to you on that one. Yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's been over an hour and a half now, so this has been a long episode. But we want to thank everybody for coming here. We are trying to do this kind of bi-weekly, so we'll see if we can get back here towards the end of the month of May. We may push it back an extra week just so we can get the June development update in, so look for that at the beginning of June. We'll give you all of the information of what we went over and what we contributed to the project this month. But want to thank Plankton and Ben for being on the Vertcoin Talk today, and we will see you guys in the next one.